Well, good on, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're here with Allison Jean. She is the mother of Botham Jean. Now, we have, definitely covered that case. It happened right here, definitely in Texas, but in the Dallas area. And we want to talk to her a little bit about, just that in itself, because just as a parent, my Lord. So thank you, Ms. Jean, for joining us on the show today.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone.
All right, so Ms. Jean, we'll just talk to you just a little bit, about Botham himself, because some people don't know him prior to this case, but what kind of person he was like as a little kid growing up, and things that we didn't know that maybe the media didn't put out.
Yeah, as a little kid, Botham was very, very active. He was involved in everything. He was what we call in the Caribbean troublesome, but very adventurous, always getting into climbing stuff. He just gravitated to everyone. So as a kid, all his teachers, his extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody just gravitated towards Botham. In fact, I was saying that we have a phrase that it takes a community to raise a child. And in the case of Botham, it was really a community that raised him because everyone just gravitated towards him.
Okay, so basically, he was just a average boy that just really got into things and really, like I said, he was the life of the party, correct?
He was the life of the party. Up to his death, he was the life of the party.
Okay, so when did he come to America? Because he was born in St. Lucia, correct?
He was born in St. Lucia. He came to America at the age of 19. That was, I think it was, I don't remember the year right now, but he was 19 years old. He had finished his community college in St. Lucia, and he went to Harding University to study accounting at the age of 19.
So, your son leaving St. Lucia. Now, St. Lucia isn't known for, the police, shooting Black people just ungodly, just for no reason, correct?
Well, we're 90% Black, so if they had to shoot Black people, they would be shooting everybody.
Shooting themselves, right?
So we've had a few extrajudicial killings, but we've not had the level of police brutality that we're seeing in the United States. In fact, we're only 80,000 people, so we pretty much know each other, and we have a slower pace way of life. So police brutality is not one of our main concerns in this country.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that question is because, America is quite known for the targeting and extrajudicial killings that you're still seeing to this day in the United States of definitely Black people, but for sure Black men.
That's right.
And so with that being said, did you talk to Botham about some of that prior to him coming to the U.S.?
Not prior. Well, perhaps a little prior, because we discussed some of the police shootings in the United States, like Michael Brown. We spoke a lot about Trayvon Martin's case. We spoke about Michael Brown before he left. But while he was in the US, we spoke very often on the phone. And I particularly asked him whether he had faced any sort of, not police brutality, but racism. And he told me, yes, mommy, I faced it, but it's no big deal for me. Because when Botham went to Harding University, it's located in Searcy, Arkansas. And this is a predominantly white town. His school had maybe about 90% whites. So he was in the minority. And I asked him whether he felt comfortable at the school, and he said he was fine. But he said that he knew what it was to walk into an elevator and a little white lady would pull her bag closer to her because she felt threatened by him. So he was very cognizant of what was happening in the United States. And he told me that he dressed in a particular way. He was always neatly dressed because he did not want to be mistaken for a thug. He said so all the time. He told me that he ensured that his car was always in good condition, that his registration and license was always up to date, because he didn't want to be pulled over by the police for any reason. So he really prepared himself, did everything right so that he was he would not come into an encounter with a police officer.
And so basically, your son left St. Lucia where, you say he didn't have those worries and problems at all. Come to America. I understand why he came to get some education, to further, what he's trying to do. But in the meantime, trying to get this education, now he's living under stress. Like, I have to dress a certain way. I better have my car this way. I better, do this, do that, because my life could be on the line.
That's right.
Right. Okay. And that's what I tell people, Mrs. John, about America, is that we live under a constant stress that we don't even think about. We just say, oh, it's that way. But it's not that way, because you tell me in St. Lucia, you guys don't even think about that whatsoever.
We don't have to think about it. And even more so in 2017, when Botham's little brother, Brant, visited him in Dallas. Brant said Botham told him, he had a talk with him, and he told him, when you're in a store, do not put your hands in your pocket. Do not wear a hoodie. He told Brant to present himself in a way that he would not be mistaken. But here in St. Lucia, we don't have to do that. Kids walk around in hoodies all the time. Everybody walks in, whether your hands in your pockets or not, We did not have to have that talk in St. Lucia.
And that's a sad, and that's actually a good thing you didn't have to have that talk, because that's just normal. I tell people, we have to, as Black people, get away from this place to live like normal, because white folks don't have a talk to their children.
Exactly.
About the police. I mean, we're the one that's constant. On my channel, I label it state-sanctioned genocide. I don't call it police brutality, because to me, brutality is just beating somebody up. No, they are waging a campaign of genocide, and it's sanctioned by the government. And with the United Nations, the term genocide is a definitely something that carries a lot more weight than police brutality. But take us to the time that you talked to both of them prior to you getting the phone call that something happened to him. What was the last thing he talked to you about?
We spoke about so many things. He called me at 9:30 on September 5th. And we spoke about work, because since he was not a resident or a citizen, he was on a work authorization. He had some difficulty a few weeks prior because there was a new executive order or administrative decision that non-citizens should not visit client offices. So as you know, he worked for PwC, and all of his work was at various clients. So he was very disturbed about that new order that prevented him from working at clients' offices. And we were talking about possible relocation to other places that did not have that order. So we spoke about Canada, we spoke about the Cayman Islands as possible places that he could relocate to work, because he still wanted to work for the same PwC, but because in the United States they had taken such a heavy stand, he was contemplating, looking at other areas that he would possibly be able to relocate to. But so the night when we spoke, he had told me that that order was lifted and he could have returned to clients' offices, so it did not affect his job as much. We spoke about his weight loss because I always told him that he was putting on too much weight, and I always encouraged him to go to the gym. But he gave me all the stories about his experiences at the gym. So we spoke about that. Then we spoke about American politics. We spoke about St. Lucia politics. He also spoke about the church and him wanting to be more active in the church. So he was now teaching a Bible class on a Wednesday evening. So we spoke about pretty much everything. We spent over an hour on the phone that night, from 9:30 in the evening.
Okay, so when everything that happened, in with Amber Guyger, and she, committed murder, definitely against your son, cold-blooded murder. What was the first phone call you got, to hear about that? Was it from the police? Was it from family?
Well, I was in New York at the time with my daughter, and my daughter was the one who received the phone call. She said she got a call from a social worker at Baylor University Hospital, and the social worker just said that Botham was shot and he died.
So at that moment, how did you you feel? Like what was your first reaction?
My first reaction is how could Botham die? That's the question I asked her. How could he die? How could they say he died? And then I started asking questions. Where was he shot? Who shot him? Why was he shot? I thought that, I didn't know Botham to be in bad company. So I thought, well, maybe he was in the company of some person who was targeted and he got shot. Maybe he was robbed. Maybe he was at a bar, So all sorts of things came to my mind. But as the night progressed, a detective called her, and then we started getting little messages. I spoke to someone at his apartment building, and she was the one who told me that it was a police officer. Now, again, in my mind, I'm wondering, well, she told me, the person at the apartment complex told me that he was shot by a police officer who was a neighbor. But I did not know a female police officer. I didn't even ask about race at the time because I'm socialized, like I told you, with Black people in St. Lucia. So I didn't even think of whether the person was Black or white or whoever. But I was told that she mistakenly went to the apartment. But I was told that she may have been under the influence of either alcohol or drugs, because to make a mistake like that, and at the time when the police got there, her key was still in his keyhole. All of these things just kept, coming at me, and it still didn't make sense. Nothing made sense to me because I knew how Botham lived his life, and Botham was such an amicable person. Botham he gravitated to people. He was very easy to speak to. He was very warm, very caring. So I just couldn't understand how somebody could have walked into his apartment and shot him.
So the video that was recorded, and the young lady that actually recorded the video, we interviewed her at the time period. And when she recorded, saw, Amber Guyger going back and forth. And did you know that, she, was literally being like almost criminalized because she recorded a video? Did you know that?
I met her, but
you met her.
I met Bunny Babs.
Okay.
But we didn't see that video until maybe the Saturday or the Sunday afterwards. I didn't see the video. So it was the day after when I did an interview with one of the news networks, and the reporter said, "Do you know that she's white?" So I said, no, I didn't know. And she said, do you think that that is significant? I said, yes, because I believe if Amber Guyger had walked into an apartment and found a white man, her actions would have been different. So I up to now hold to that view, that the only threat that Botham posed to Amber Guyger was the color of his skin. That's the only reason she would have pulled the trigger, because she saw a black man. And I'm looking at you now, and you have the physique of Botham. You look a lot like him. So I believe it was the color of his skin that was a threat to her.
Well, we know during the trial that, Amber Guyger, definitely was saying some very, very questionable and in my opinion, racist things about
Yes.
Black people. So in my, definitely how I covered it, and if you saw it or not, I covered it as, this another case of a racist cop killing a Black person. Because
Right.
let me ask you a question about that. How did you feel when you heard how the media was demonizing your son, him being the victim of just sitting in his own house and getting killed by police? Like, how did you feel when that happened, to constantly watch the media demonize your son?
I don't know if you saw one of the statements that I made a week following his death. When I found out about this whole marijuana story, I said that the news of the marijuana was even worse than the news of his death. Because to criminalize my son in his death, when he had no voice, when he can no longer speak, I mean, that was cruel, it was wicked, and they were covering up for the devil, Amber Guyger. So that hit me even worse than the news of his death. Because
Okay.
Botham sought to ensure that he was never, ever in any sort of trouble with the law.
So you say, and you called her the right name. She is a devil, complete devil to the
Yeah,
core.
that's right.
So now, it said demonization, people trying to rationalize why your son should have died, rationalizing what he should have done or what he shouldn't have done in his own house,
In
mind
his
you,
own house.
in his own house. Well, when you thought about all of that, that happened, and I know it happened so fast, and it took one of your sons. When it comes to your other family members possibly coming to the U.S., do you have a different conversation with them about that now since this has happened?
To tell you the truth, my youngest son, Brant, is in the US right now. And I didn't even speak to him about it. Because the way Botham died in the comfort of his own apartment,
Mm-hmm.
in a place where he called home, in his sanctuary, I don't know that any Black person is safe in America. But we cannot crawl under a rock. We cannot just keep ourselves closed up. We have to fight against it. So I won't even speak. I cannot even. My daughter lives in New York. My son is in Arkansas. I have grandsons in New York. I think about them all the time. I just think that the system must change. And every single Black person in America is under threat. That's how I see it. Because in the past, we heard about walking while Black, running while Black, driving while Black. But eating ice cream in the comfort of your apartment and watching football while Black? I mean, tell me that there could be one even worse. In fact, well, I heard of Breonna Taylor, which I believe is similar, a Tatiana Jefferson playing video games in her bedroom. So can it get any worse?
I'm glad you said that, I mean, 'cause you experience, literally, a state sanctioned genocide killing of your son. You experienced it.
Yeah.
And you're literally repeating what I normally say to my audience. You're not safe in America. You say whatever while black. It just fact is these people hate us. Okay. It don't matter what we do. I mean, like you said, if you sit in your house eating ice cream and you can be killed and you're being criminalized in the media and you didn't do anything wrong, we call them race soldier did wrong. Then for us, it's for me, it's better that black people will go to St. Lucia with you and get away from these people. That's how I feel about it. It's better for us to go to the continent of Africa, wherever there are black nations. I believe we should take our talents, walk away from this. And I know some people say we built America or whatever, but we don't control it. We don't control it. These people, like from the prosecutors, the system, the prosecutors, and even if you have a quote unquote black judge, they make sure that black judge is compromised. They make sure of it.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned your son, and like I said, I cannot talk to you without mentioning what you say about your son Brant Jean, because most people are gonna get on me if I don't ask you this question. Mm-hmm. How did you feel about your son Brant Jean, which was headlines, walking up to Amber Guyger and hugging her?
Brant did what he had to do to free himself, and I'm very proud of him. I was scared that Brant would have taken revenge, not on Amber Guyger because she was all guarded by police, but on any white woman for killing his brother. So when Brant walked over, initially I was like, what is he going to say? Because everyone who knows Brant knew that he hardly speaks, far less to speak publicly. So I couldn't understand it. Okay? On the spiritual side, I just believed that he was a messenger of Botham. Because that was more, I could have seen Botham doing that and I would have understood it. But Brant needed to free himself. I'll tell you, Brant's life stopped on the 6th of September, 2018. His life stopped. He had to drop out of college. I got him a job. Unfortunately, while he was on the job right here in St. Lucia, he was robbed of his cell phone, his iPad, everything he was using while he was on the job, because he worked with a civil engineering company. That's what he wanted to do civil engineering. So he worked doing a road assessment and he was robbed on that road at gunpoint. So everything that Brant had pent up inside, he needed to release it. And that was his way of releasing it. Because ever since Brant did that, he has been a changed child. He's been a different person. He's been more open. You could see he's more free. I know he's still hurting, but you could see that a load came off his shoulder. So I'm very proud of him. He's done what I can't do.
So you wouldn't have done that?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So let me say, so let me tell you like how when I saw it and how I felt this as a Black American. I understand like you grew up in a different environment where you really didn't deal with racism because you grew up in a Black nation, right? So us whose lineage is here, who dealt with just basically, in our opinion, your son was lynched. That's how we look at it, here.
That's right. Yeah, I believe that too.
Yeah. So when I looked at it and I initially saw the video and I knew two things I knew was going to happen. That the same media that demonized your son was going to use that image to show this. They love to show Black people forgiving, white supremacists or as you call her, a devil. They love that, first of all, because it shows us, oh, look, the lowly slave is forgiving their slave master again.
That's how they look at it.
Yes, that's how they looked at it. And I knew they was going to run it like that. And then at the same time, us here in America, was so angry, including myself, because I'm like you. I said, listen, I couldn't have got close to her like that because I would have hugged her all right, but that hug wouldn't have been around her like that. That hug would have been somewhere else. It sure wouldn't have been there. They would have had to put me in jail at that point. You let me that close to her, and she murdered my brother.
And I was scared that was that he was going to do that too. I was scared. So I'm sitting there, I'm dumbfounded. I'm scared. I don't know what he's going to do because he never spoke to anybody about what he was going to do. So it was just, this moment where your heart just stops, wondering what is he going to say and what is he going to do. But when he spoke to her about giving her life to God, I realized that he had turned around. He was trying to deal with the anger by asking her to consider what she's done, because he said so. You don't know the hurt that you've caused my family. I don't have to tell you what you've taken away from us.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you are truly sorry, like you say you are, he didn't ask her to tell him that she was sorry. He said, if you are truly sorry, you need to go to God and ask him for forgiveness. So I think people are looking at the hug without looking back at what he said. It was not just the hug, but it was what he said. And we are Christians. Brant and Botham were brought up in a Christian home. We practice forgiveness. We tell each other we're sorry. I taught them to say that they're sorry. I taught them not to fight at school. I taught them to report something that is being done that's wrong to you. Do not take revenge. These are the things that we brought them up. That's how I brought them up. Yeah? So it's his socialization that caused him. Because like I tell you, we have all blacks. He went to an all black school.
Mm-hmm.
But I taught him not to fight with other black people. So it's nothing about black or white. And the same way I saw Brant is what Botham did. If you look at Botham's Facebook page or you look at pictures of Botham was always surrounded by whites.
Yes, I've seen that.
But he was the leader. He brought a team of white students down to St. Lucia and took them to all sorts of, poor people's homes and stuff. Botham didn't see black or white. And so Brant is the same way.
And for people watching who maybe, because some people say, see, that's the problem. Well, see, the thing is, some people don't understand. And me traveling, I'm glad I got to see it. In America, everything is labeled by color here. Like, I mean, your skin color is put you where you're at in the racial caste system we have in America. But what some of us who haven't, went to other countries to realize, when you're in an all black nation, you really don't think about racism. You really don't think about it. It's not even your thought process. It's not even how you think. You more so identify with nationality, not color.
That's right.
So for him, like I say, when I heard that, but I always tell people that immigrating to this country, you better research what you're coming into. Yes, there's some opportunities, but you're really dealing with your life can be taken coming here as a black person.
That's what I'm telling my fellow St. Lucians right now.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about Black Lives Matter, it didn't mean much to us in St. Lucia. Yeah? Because we may as well say all lives matter if we say it here in St. Lucia because we're black. But Black Lives Matter is applicable when we go to the United States. And we go there for vacation, we go there for medical attention, we go for education, we have family living there. So we go on business opportunities, we go to meetings there. So we have to be cognizant of the different way of life in America than here in St. Lucia. In St. Lucia, we're laid back. It takes 15 minutes to go anywhere that you want to go. You know, it's a completely different life. We don't have to call someone if we want to drop by. We're still in a place where people just drop by your house and say, hi, I came to see you, without calling first. That's the way of life for us. But that's not how it is in America. So we better start preparing ourselves for when we get to America, because it's a completely different world.
Correct.
I've learned that, and I learned it the hard way.
Yeah, unfortunately, definitely unfortunately, your family has learned the hard way about America and really the wickedness that's here. And when I saw what happened to both of them, anything that happens to one of my brothers, I don't care where you come from, I feel it personally, because I know that could be me. That could be my cousins. That could be, my uncles. That could be anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because, like I say, if you can't sit down, like you said, you can't sit down in your house, your sanctuary, and escape from the world without worrying about something like that happening to you. I mean, that's just. Now, let's talk about the two things before I wrap up. The verdict itself, right? Found guilty. Great.
But that's what I prayed for. That's what I wanted. That's what I got.
But what do you think about the sentence? Because me personally, I wanted to see the 30 years. But what did you think about the sentence?
At the time, just before the sentence, one of my attorneys asked me, how much are you looking at? I said, Daryl, I got the conviction. I wasn't even thinking of the sentence. I never had a number in mind. But when the prosecutor asked the jury to consider 28 years for every day that Botham lived, I thought that it was a good number. So 10 years for me is lenient, is a slap on the wrist. That's how I see it. However, given the fact that the 10 years was what the jury came up with, the same jury that found her guilty for murder, I decided to accept that, okay, the jury saw her guilty for murder. The jury may have had some compassion over her, and gave her the 10 years. So I don't cry over spilled milk, but I just believe that, I hope that she makes these 10 years, 10 meaningful years, so that when she gets out there, she could never, ever think of pulling another trigger. Not even on an animal.
Well, let me ask you one last question. So she did file an appeal. That came up in the news. A lot of us, including myself, was very upset that she's even trying to file an appeal when she got literally, like you said, a slap on the wrist for the 10 years.
Yes.
What was your initial, thoughts when you heard about this appeal?
Well, the appeal shows that she has not taken accountability for what she's done. The appeal shows that she believes that she's not responsible for the murder of my son. And the grounds of appeal is self-defense. So if it's self-defense, who were you defending?
Wait, Miss Jean, hold on. She filed an appeal and said it was self-defense.
That's right. You need to read
in his apartment. It's self-defense?
In his apartment.
Oh my God.
The lone semblance of a weapon that he had in his apartment was a baseball bat. And it was untouched. So what were you defending if it was not the color of his skin?
Well, Texas.
Well,
Ms. Jean, Texas is a big state even about guns. So if your son had an armory in his apartment and he bought it legally, she still has no right to kill him.
Exactly.
Wow. So, it goes back to what you said. Devil. That was the best term you said all interview. She's a devil.
Yeah. That's how I couldn't think of her in any other way. I saw this hasty, wicked woman who was just turned down by her married adulterer. So she was upset. She walked in a fit of rage, opened the door, and shot a black man in his apartment. And if you realize from the bullet's trajectory and in the trial where she stood, she was still standing by the door when she shot him across the living room. So he was not even close enough to her to say that he had her in a chokehold or he grabbed her or anything. So what is the self-defense? What is the threat?
Once again, devil. And see, I understand that. And I know, this is just like I said, Miss Jean, I know and I understand who these people are. So once again, I understand, like I said, you know, you expressing what your son thought, and, you know, I was expressing how we looked at it as Black Americans, but we knew this woman was a devil from the get-go. And in just my opinion, I believe that devil woman hugged your son to play on that jury so she can get that 10 years.
No. You have the chronology wrong.
Oh, that was after the jury.
It was after the sentence.
Okay, after the sentence.
Everything, what my son did happened when the case was closed.
Was closed. So she wasn't sentenced.
Not before the jury. The jury had already left.
Oh, they left when he did that. Okay.
Yes, the jury was already dismissed. She was already convicted. She was sentenced. And then afterwards, there was the victim impact statement. The jury was not in the room.
Okay. And then she did the appeal and said it was self-defense.
Self-defense.
Okay. Wow. Wow. So are you going to go to that trial if possible? Or are you going to say, you know what, I'm just
whatever it is, I'm dedicating myself to standing for my son. So I will be involved in every single thing to make sure that he gets justice. I thought last year he had gotten justice. She had gotten 10 years. And I was just beginning to get to a place of peace because I have not gotten there yet. It's been a roller coaster. I had to go through the trial. It was really, really difficult for my family and I. And then on the other hand, we're dealing with the civil suits. And that in itself comes with a lot of heartache and pressure. But when she filed the appeal, she just brought me right back to September 6, 2018.
Well, you know, Mrs. Jean, you know, I would, just as a parent, you know, I have a son. I would not, you know, I wouldn't know what, I could not deal with it. But like I said, my mindset is totally different on some things. It's like, look, I believe in just, I don't know, I believe in the Bible too. I believe in an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I'm just a little different. But I would not, like I said, want to be in that position, losing a child. I just, no. I mean, for you to even just to have that conversation, is a testament, you know, to a lot of us, and some things that you have dropped, you know, jewels on just about the condition that we have in America. At least in St. Lucia, you don't have that problem. Right. And I would tell my brothers and sisters, you hearing it from someone who's dealt with it. I mean, it's nothing you could argue. I mean, you could go to the Caribbean if you would like, you know. I'm pretty sure we're welcome. Mr. John said we're welcome to come to St. Lucia. We would like to, you know.
Anytime.
Yes, we need to go there. If you don't want to go, some people don't want to go to the continent and go that far. Okay, you can go to the Caribbean. It's fine too.
We're wide open.
Yes, wide open. We just need to get away from these people.
Actually, we're even open now during this COVID period. Our airports are open to you.
Okay, do you have to take a COVID test to come into the country?
Yes, you must have a PCR negative test.
Okay, PCR negative test. Yes. Okay, and how many hours prior to the flight? Because I know they say it was so many hours prior to the flight. How many?
5 days.
5 days prior. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, you know, you can go to St. Lucia. You got to have your PCR test 5 days before. It must be negative. You can go visit over there. Because some people, like I said, they may not want to go as far as the continent. maybe they want to go to the Caribbean. That way you can come back to the U.S. and visit family, whatever. That may be some options.
And it's not just the Caribbean, because at this stage, I think there are some Caribbean islands that are still closed because their numbers are high. But we are at 26, no deaths, all recovered. Our beaches are open. We have summer year round. So our only 2 seasons are rain and sunshine. So,
and you got to deal with hurricanes, right?
We have hurricanes, but so far, knock on wood, we have not gotten any storms yet. We have not gotten any damage from storms or anything. So it's a good time to come.
Yeah, and you know what you say about your COVID numbers, I say, look at God. I say, because every Black country I see don't have mass deaths in COVID. When you look at these quote unquote Western nations, mass deaths all over the place. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers. So I always tell people it's better to, you know, let's start looking at the other countries that our people are definitely running, and it may not be perfect. But no country on earth is perfect. But at least try out, you know, what we can do. So, Mrs. Jean, is there, you know, any way that maybe, you know, people could contact you or be in support of what you guys are doing? Maybe like a website or email, if possible.
That's right. We have the Botham Jean Foundation. We're just 1 year since we set up, and we're doing marvelous work. We just distributed backpacks and school supplies to students in Dallas, in Oak Cliff in Dallas. We just gave out PPE and hygiene products to the homeless on Lamar Street. So persons who want to contribute or donate to the Botham Jean Foundation can do so. Our website is bothamjeanfoundation.org. BOAM and Jean Foundation @org.
Okay. So what was the email one more time when you gave an email?
No, the website.
BothamJeanFoundation.org.
That's correct.
Okay. So we'll make sure
all the details are there. Email, everything, how to donate, what we've been involved in. We had planned to have an annual gala dinner on his birthday, the 29th of September, but because of COVID, we've unfortunately had to cancel it. However, the mayor of Dallas, I'm sure you've seen, he has dedicated September 29th as Be Like Bo Day in Dallas. So we're arranging some activities to commemorate his 29th birthday on September 29th.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, make sure we're putting the pinned comment, the link to the website, bothamjeanfoundation.org, and you can send emails, or you can possibly get involved or donate to the foundation. So, Mrs. Jean, like I said, I thank you very much for, you know, taking the time to speak with us today and telling your story and telling us things that we didn't know, because, you know, this media is definitely not on our side. That's why Black media is extremely important.
That's right. Yes. And thank you very much for talking to me this afternoon. I really enjoyed our discourse. And I want to tell Americans that the world is watching.